What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Darian with Darian the Dev, and in this video we're going to automate searching for flights with Selenium. If you guys are brand new to the channel, if you're into tech, entrepreneurship, coding, or startups, anything like that, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me stay motivated to keep making these videos for you guys. So as you guys know, if you like to travel, or if you guys have done any traveling yourselves, then you know that looking for flights or getting the best price on a flight is usually a really annoying process because you have to go to multiple different search engines or different sites and try to check and compare and see what is the best price and make sure that you're not getting ripped off. So the main goal is pretty much to figure out a way to simplify that process, speed it up, and make sure that I'm getting the best price on my flights. I figured this would be a great time to use Selenium and get more reps with Selenium and use it to figure out how to automate that entire process, because that is exactly what Selenium is for, guys. It's used for controlling like different web browsers. There's a reason why specifically I chose Skyscanner and TripAdvisor. I know you guys are probably like, who buys flights on those websites? But I'm gonna tell you guys in this next part about research why I end up going with those two sites. During the research phase, I had to go and figure out which sites I wanted to use or scrape to get my data. So I spent a lot of time going through different websites, Expedia, Kayak, you know, pretty much you name it, cheapflights.com. First, I went there and started playing around with those websites and pretty much using the developer tools in Google Chrome to inspect the page and actually look and see how the page was set up in the UI. So does the elements that I need to interact with, do they have IDs? Do they have class names? You know, how am I gonna actually access the elements on the page, or are they even accessible on the page? So I went ahead and went to Visual Studio and just created a new console application, which basically, guys, is not a web application. It just runs locally on your machine. And the first thing that you want to do is, for me, I'm on Mac. So when I go inside my Visual Studio and go to the top and go and hover over project, I can see manage NuGet packages. And I want to go ahead and click that. And then I'm going to go ahead and search for Selenium inside of the NuGet package manager. And then I'm going to grab the Chrome driver to interact with the browser that I'm going to be using, which in my case is going to be Google Chrome. And then I'm also going to download Selenium as well, and then I'm going to install those packages, and then we're pretty much good to go. Alright, so I want to go over some of the really important things that we need just getting started with Selenium. So I want to show you guys this right here, this little code snippet using dependency injection. So you guys, as we talked about earlier, we need something called a web driver that allows us to interact with our browser, allows Selenium to interact with the browser, and basically pretend to be a fake user and run the interactions that we need to run to go through our tests. So there's different drivers for different browsers. There's one for Firefox, Chrome, Edge, all different types of browsers. And in this case, I'm going to create my classes, and in the constructor, I'm going to pass in a driver, and that way I can basically pass in any driver that I want. And then I'm also going to create a public iWebDriver property that just has the name driver as well, and I'm going to set it equal to the driver that I'm passing into the constructor, guys. So pretty much any driver that I choose to pass into this class is going to be able to be utilized the same way without changing any of the code that's existing in the class. So I can pass in a Firefox driver, I can pass in an Edge driver, a Chrome driver, and my test will still run the same, and I can test multiple browsers. So right here, guys, we actually have the main method that actually runs and controls the flow of the entire program. And right here, you can actually see that I'm newing up or creating a new instance of an iWebDriver, just giving it a name called driver. And you can see I'm specifying that it's called a Chrome driver, so it's specifically for the Chrome browser. And once we've created and instantiated a driver for whichever browser we want to use, we want to go ahead and use that driver to navigate to the URL of whichever website we want to, interact with. So in this case, driver.url is the method, and then we can just pass it any URL that we want to navigate to. And then this task.delay 5000 basically is just saying wait 5 seconds, because when you're interacting with the DOM using Selenium, sometimes things happen really quickly and you need to give the page a little bit of time to like wait on certain things to appear on the screen, or for a page to load, or for results to load. So if you see a bunch of these, task.delay.waits all over the code, then that's really all it's there to do, guys. Two other really important methods with testing with Selenium are going to be find elements or send keys. Those methods are really important for just interacting with and sending data to elements on the screen. So in this case, guys, you can see that we're using find element here to actually grab something by an XPath. And then the send keys method allows us to actually send data into, or basically mimic a person typing something into a field in the UI. In this case, we're even using send keys to actually open a new tab. So we're basically just using the send keys method to actually hold command, because I'm on a Mac, and then press the T key, which is the way that I would usually create a new tab. And basically the code you see right here is just mimicking that. It allows us to open another tab and then run the rest of our TripAdvisor test in another tab and have both of our results open side by side. So when you're trying to interact with these elements, guys, and they're really irritating, or they're really annoying, or they're really hard to grab, or in the case of flights.google.com, is pretty much just impossible to even find anything to interact with, you guys can head over to the Google Chrome web store and you can actually grab a really cool and helpful extension called XPath Helper. It allows you to pretty much just use it on any website and just hold shift and hover over anything, and it'll give you the exact XPath of that, and then it'll also show you the results in a separate window of what exactly that XPath is holding, or what it consists of or contains. So it makes it really easy for you to preview what you're going to be getting back if you want to set something in the UI to variables when you're doing your testing in Selenium. So super helpful. I'd recommend either grabbing this one or CrowPath, but this one is the one that's been super helpful for me, XPath Helper. Alright, so what were the struggles, guys? I already described basically some sites being really difficult to interact with and being very hard to grab specific elements on the screen. Now, granted, I only spent a few days working on this project, so if I would have spent more time working on Google Flights, I probably could have accessed the values and figured out a way to get them. But I'm just saying that some sites are way more straightforward than others, and depending on what you have to do and how the UI is generated, especially if it's in Angular, good luck grabbing elements on the screen. It's going to be really challenging sometimes. So just be prepared to spend a lot of time working on the logic to actually grab your elements. The next thing, the big thing, and I know you guys probably noticed, is also the date selection. So as you guys probably noticed, I didn't implement the actual date picking or date selection. So everything is pretty generic when you land on the site. It pretty much gives you the immediate dates that are already pre-filled. So in this case, guys, I did that because it would have taken some time to think about the logic behind how to actually take the user input date, which would be a number value or basically a string, whichever one you want, or a date time, and then convert that into a string that the test can go find the element on the screen, which is usually some sort of like clickable date picker that pops up by JavaScript events. And then you have to actually click through the arrows and find the date that matches the converted name of the month that was passed in the date. So the logic gets pretty intense. Not that it's really crazy, but it would have taken a little bit of time for me to figure that out. And for the purpose of just getting the proof of concept down, I'll probably go back and build on that later. But that's another thing, guys. It's just there's very, very tedious to go and pick the actual dates off the calendar. So that was probably one of the bigger obstacles that I ran into as well, that I would need to go back and implement for this to be really as cool as I want it to be. The last thing was running into "are you a bot" messages. And the answer in this case obviously is yes, guys. And when you're running your Selenium test, you don't want to run into, you know, bot messages. They're gonna make you prove that you're not a robot. Sometimes you might have to manually intervene with your test to prevent those messages from popping up, or to just actually answer them and go through them. Or you might have to figure out a better way to get around those messages popping up in the first place. The last thing, guys, is going to be refactoring. What would I do differently when I go back and update this project in the future? So if you guys have like paused any of the video and seen the code, you probably noticed that it's not the most beautiful, it's not the most object-oriented code ever. And that's pretty much because it was a proof of concept, guys. And the code definitely could be a lot more maintainable, and I definitely repeated myself a lot, so I could go back and break a lot of my classes out into interfaces and pretty much just make it a lot more object-oriented friendly. Also, guys, error handling and validation is important in any program or system, including testing. So I definitely should be handling my user input and my validation a lot better. Right now I'm doing like very little validation on the user input, so that's something I would go back and do. Error handling is definitely something I would want to go back and do. As we had just talked about, adding in the start and the return date is going to be a big one. But you know, this was just a proof of concept. I just wanted to give you guys a taste of what can be done in just a couple of days with Selenium, or at least a couple of days for me. It might even take you guys less time. So just show you guys the power of Selenium and just getting into, you know, testing frameworks and just what you can do with them, and like cool little small coding projects you can do with them that actually still end up being helpful tools. So yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think. If you guys like this tool, what I should add to it, maybe, I don't know. And also let me know if you guys have used Selenium, if you've done any cool Selenium projects. Let me know down in the comment section down below, guys. Again, if this was helpful, please leave me a like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me stay motivated to put this content out for you guys. And if you're brand new to coding and thinking about going to Coding Bootcamp, check out the description box down below. I'm giving out my free Intro to Coding Bootcamp course. Has everything in it that I wish I knew before I went to Coding Bootcamp. I'm giving it away completely for free. All it costs is your email address. There's also a link down there for a free private Facebook group where I put all the other resources that aren't in the descriptions of these videos. And there's a community of people over there who are learning how to code, and it's really cool. Make sure you guys get added in there. But I appreciate you guys for being here with me. This is Darian the Dev. I'll see you guys next video, all right? Peace.